Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So, taking a super fun and exciting episode for you guys today because we are taking a second look at Ghostship, the Harbour Masters produced PC port of Super Mario 64 over to Windows machines. And even though we've had other PC ports in the past, the number one comment I would always get on those videos, and I even got on Ghostship, is how basically 99 out of 100 people failed to actually build that version of the Super Mario 64 port. And trust me, I do these things all the time, and I will readily admit, when I do try to build new versions of that every once in a while, even I get tripped up ever so slightly. So having a very easy plug and play, grab one file and start enjoying Super Mario 64 on Windows version is absolutely going to be amazing. And now what we're doing here is using the Super Mario 64 Reloaded texture pack to make Super Mario 64 look way more like a modern game than ever before. It's big decomp energy through and through, and we're all about it here. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But I will say the Super Mario 64 Reloaded texture pack is the one thing everyone wanted to see based upon the comments on the first video. And usually when I talk about these new recomps or PC ports, I like showing these stock games so you get an understanding of exactly what the out-of-the-box experience is going to be like. But then I like to go back in for a second look, talk about my long-term testing of the actual port or recomp, and tell you guys what I think. And I will say right now, having played around on this both on my PC as well as my 65-inch OLED in my office and studio, it's been absolutely stunning, amazing to control, amazing to play, and just looks great with this new texture pack. But if you've been playing around with this new port, leave me a comment down below and you tell me how you've been enjoying it so far. But the big thing here is obviously the Super Mario 64 Reloaded texture pack, and it is so incredibly easy to install into Ghostship. All you really do is put the files in the mods folder and they will appear instantaneously for you to enjoy. But I will leave a link in the description below to the GitHub page that has both the actual Ghostship installation and directions on where to put the mods, as well as for the Super Mario 64 Reloaded texture pack. But just take a look at the overall textures here. They look stunning and way better than anything ever could on something like an N64, because the texture cache could be a little bit muddy, even though we have some examples of some super textures showing that it could be done in a higher resolution. But this is kind of, in lack of a better terms, how a lot of people remember Super Mario 64 looking if they haven't played it since the 90s. Nostalgia is a powerful drug, and a lot of times you'll think to yourself, I remember the game looking better than it actually did. That's because when we were kids, we didn't really care about low frame rates, we didn't really care about stuff like muddy textures, we were just excited to see Mario run around in 3D on a brand new N64s, and basically everything else we look the other way on. But now today, if you try to go back and play those games, it can be a little bit of a rough experience if you don't have that massive amount of nostalgia for it. Even stuff on Analog 3D, people have been having a ton of fun, including myself, playing that console, but the number one request that people had, even though we knew it was never coming, and I'm not personally requesting it, is people wanted a higher internal rendering resolution than the 240p or 480i that N64 provided. So I think there's some people out there that bought Analog 3D, heard 4K, and thought they were going to get textures like this, not textures like the previous version. And the nice thing is, with the tab button in Ghostship, you can toggle back and forth between the original textures and the new reloaded textures, and that's really fun to kind of go back and forth and see what they used to look like versus what they could look like. And I get that in Render 96 we have different models for Mario, and maybe those will actually come to something like Ghostship in the future, but trying to actually make Render 96 to build that project versus playing Ghostship is a night and day difference. The only odd thing about this texture pack on Ghostship, at least in my noticing, is that none of the text boxes actually have text in them. But honestly, there's not a whole lot of story here, so you don't really have to worry too much about that. But you tell me down below, original textures or the reworked ones, which ones do you prefer? I would say, as far as playing something like Ghostship, the new textures really do marry well together with the overall higher frame rate and enhanced performance of Ghostship to kind of give you that definitive version of Super Mario 64. Let's do one soundtrack sample because again the music is iconic and I love it, so you can hear what it sounds like coming out of Ghostship, and I'll be right back to talk a lot more about the enhancements and how you can enjoy them. I mean, Ghostship definitely sounds incredible, but look at these vines and leaves right here, along with that rope. Those are absolutely stunning, and they make this game look like something that was released in 2026 just with a retro polygonal aesthetic. Because of course a texture pack isn't going to improve the geometry whatsoever. That would be a completely different modification. But again, it's wild to think that Super Mario 64 is as old as it is. I still remember getting my N64 at Christmas and playing this game, and absolutely being in love with it, and honestly, at least in my brain, that doesn't seem like that long ago. Now, of course, we've definitely all gotten a lot older, but the reality is, with stuff like Ghostship, with stuff like recomps and PC ports, you can kind of relive that moment where you first got to play these games for the second time. And that's something as we all get older, with our nostalgia, I think we really want more of. The ability to go in and pretend that we're playing a game for the first time and getting that same sensation of wonder and discovery as we did back in the 90s, because it would be an understatement to say that Super Mario 64 absolutely revolutionized 3D platformers and really brought Nintendo into the 3D age. And I will say this game definitely still holds up super well today, and now with all of these new texture packs and new textures, it just looks stunning. You leave me a comment down below and you tell me, what other mods would you like to see come to something like Ghostship? Maybe it's the Render 96 models, maybe it's ray tracing, maybe it's something like B3313. And if you've never played that before, I've been talking about it a decent amount on the channel. I absolutely do love it. Now, the one thing you will notice, at least that fog floating on top of the water here with the actual new textures, that effect kind of doesn't break a little bit. It just doesn't look the same. Sometimes the game is using its textures and its overall visual capabilities to kind of massage the image to the point in time where you get that illusion of that fog layer actually sitting on top of the water, kind of like a cold day. So every once in a while with the new textures, you might notice that it's a little bit more apparent how that effect was made, and it breaks down a tiny bit. But that's why you can turn these textures on or off at a fly. So it's one of those things you kind of just want to keep your finger on the tab button every once in a while and say, I like the older textures, let's go back to those for just a moment. But again, you can kind of switch back and forth and decide what works for you. Now moving over to another area in the game, and this is one where I think the textures are absolutely stunning, because the sand is a higher resolution, but it still is just sand, so it has the same aesthetic of the original version, but just in a better, more improved format. And because something like Ghostship gives you 16:9 or even wider screen support with whatever frame rate you want, whatever control scheme you want, you can really dial in and articulate the exact Super Mario 64 experience you want to have. And I love being able to do stuff like that. It lets every single user decide how they want to play the game, and it means that the developers haven't decided for you how they think you should enjoy it. And that's something that we've seen from the actual Harbour Masters team, giving the end user the ability to do what they want. And I absolutely love that as an overall development ethos. Let's do one more soundtrack sample, because again, iconic music that sounds even better coming out of Ghostship than original N64. 35 seconds, I'll come back, show you some more textures, and talk about how I love them so much. What I genuinely love about stuff like these PC ports along with these retexture packs is it just kind of makes it feel like magic, because that is the thing. A lot of hours, I'm assuming hundreds, not even thousands, have gone into something like this just to give you the ability to play these games again. And trust me, making these texture packs is no light lift either. You have to go in and rework every single piece of artwork from Super Mario 64. Think about how many textures are in there, think about how complex this game can be, and then think about how many people are involved just so you can go ahead and play something like Super Mario 64 on your PC with these textures. That really is why the fan community and the fan development community is so insanely impressive, and I always have time on the channel to talk about these little features and showcases, because it takes a lot of love and dedication to decide to yourself, I'm going to spend this much time making something like this. And if you haven't played Ghostship yet before, I can't stress enough, it is now in my opinion the de facto best way to play something like Super Mario 64, because don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Render 96, the ray tracing version, as well as Co-op Deluxe, and when I go to build them, I am successful 9 out of 10 times, unless I forget a step, and that is on me. But I understand from the comments it is one of the hardest things to succeed at for my audience, and if you actually Google around the problem, there's a ton of different Reddit posts and other questions out there on how to actually build these things, because there's so many different tool chains involved, so many different applications, and other things you need on your PC. You could be following the directions to a T, but you're missing some sort of functionality, software, or driver set on your computer, and it just fails the build. That is something you're not going to have to deal with whatsoever on Ghostship. You just download the actual program from GitHub, go ahead and give it the game files that you definitely legally own, and just start playing from there. And that is absolutely amazing, because the easier these things are to use, the more people are going to play them, the more they're going to enjoy them, and the more recomps and PC ports you're going to see in the future. Because trust me, recomps, decomps, and PC ports are just going to heat up in 2026, and I have another one to talk about shortly. But short of that, definitely check this out. It is an 11 out of 10, and with the texture pack, I think it's a 12 out of 10. But we are done. Beware of ghosts, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye.